Now that we have the skills for our boy Vercingetorix, right? I'm going to call him Verci, right? Let's just call him Verci. Keep it easy. But now that we have the skills on this guy, let's think about the pairings. In the previous video that I did, I talked a little bit about some potential pairings, but now let's really go through it and understand how he can work with different commanders. I'll do it by a process of elimination. We'll have a lot of fun with it. So stick around, because this is the video that's going to tell you this guy, pretty strong. He's got a chance. Let's talk about the pairings and what he can do with other commanders and get you set up if you're planning on using this guy in the field in 2026. Hey everybody, I'm your boy War Daddy Chatsky. I do Rise of Kingdoms videos all the time, and if you enjoy these videos, throw a thumbs up on it. Give it a like, really helps out the video, really helps out the channel, and if you're not subscribed, consider doing so. Does not cost you anything. You can also hit that bell if you want to get any alerts when I put out content like this. And this is the last of our Chatsky video giveaways. I'm going to put it up here and got to give I did a $10 flux. It's a giveaway I did for every video for the month of April and May, like over 50 videos. Holy geez, I gave away way too much money. But the previous video that talked about the skill release of Verci here is got a great comment here for fun. This guy's always active in my Discord. It's exactly what I wanted. If it had more AoE shielding, would have loved it, but still amazing. He thinks Verci's going to be amazing. So there you go, buddy. You win the $10 flux, and people always commented down in my comment section. I encourage everybody to do that. Really helps out the channel, and it also, you know me, I love to get involved with all those conversations. And so here's the situation we got with our boy Verci, right? He is set up to be a leadership field commander. We know this, okay? His skill sets are really kind of simple, but really a lot of fun and got some potential. And this is something we've got to kind of figure out and consider when it comes to this dude. He does a big shield, okay, which is fine. And then the field, you're not really necessarily, you want to do damage in the field. However, he's got some weird components and there's some interesting pairings that we can look at, okay? But he gives that shield and he also mitigates a whole bunch of march speed for the enemy. And in addition to that, he also buffs attack for a lot of your marches in the field. That's not a huge buff. Nobody really cares too much about attack. Like if that was all damage, like Phillip, that would be kind of amazing. And then you come into his second skill. This is where things kind of get interesting. Super tanky commander, 30% health, holy. And then 20% march speed. All right, and then he's got a proc chance for 20% to immediately reduce the target's rage by 50. And the cooldown's only 3 seconds. And whenever you actually reduce the target's rage by 100, your march deals 5% more direct damage, combo damage, or smite damage for 5 seconds. But that stacks. It can stack up to 4 times. So it's really interesting. This guy's all about, this is like the stacking commander. He wants to stack a bunch of stuff, okay? Because you had his second skill here. You've got his third skill up here, which just talks about the different troop types. He's the opposite of Phillip when it comes to this as a leadership commander, which means if you put 2 different troop types with this guy, he does a bunch more damage. If you only have 1 troop type, he takes less damage. Okay, very tanky, 20% less damage, and the rage gain speed. He's got rage engines going on everywhere. And then his 4th skill, probably the most unique and a really, really interesting situation, okay? He stacks up normal damage buffs, and he does this by throwing out shields. Now, this is clarified, all right? That whenever this commander throws out a shield, look down there towards the bottom. Whenever a shield is granted by this commander and that shield is broken or that shield runs out, his troops immediately gain 100 rage and deal 10% more normal damage for 5 seconds. And it can stack up to 4 times. Well, you're laying out more and more shields, obviously, with that 4th skill. And it doesn't matter who you put the shield on. Once that shield is done, you get a stack of that. Once your active shield is done, you get a stack of that. So that's going to ramp up pretty fast. It's going to ramp up pretty fast. And so you're going to run up a lot of normal damage with this guy. And then, of course, on his expertise, you've got this situation going on to where when he is a primary commander, okay? The shield effects you're going to gain a 10% bonus to, right? And when a shield gain from the Elysia fortification, his active skill, is broken or disappears, up to 3 nearby enemy troops take direct damage. Now, that's not a big damage factor. It's 300. It's not a big deal, but that just helps. It fires off a lot. But when he's a secondary commander, you're going to gain 5% defense. Not a big deal. But before the primary commander uses an active skill, the troop gains a 40% bonus to normal or to damage dealt for 1 second. So they're timing that out with the active skill of the primary commander. And this guy's got a chance now because you put him with a big damage dealer, okay? So let's talk about this and let's go through how this guy can compare with other commanders. We're going to go through them one by one. Here's what I've done. I've put up basically a potential pairings list, right? And I've gone through on kind of what the meta is right now, what we can run, and I put this thing together. Okay. And the first and foremost thing that we're going to go ahead and get out of the way is that we're going to look at this real quick. Oop, let me put that back up there. We're going to look at this real quick and look at the force skill. And when we look at the force skill, okay, he's doing a stacking buff of normal damage. All right, he's not really here to be paired with a skill damage commander. That doesn't do anything for skill damage. You want as much skill damage bonus as possible, and you want to lay out as many AoE damage dealers as possible with your skill damage, and that really doesn't do it. So if we come here, let's take all the skill damage commanders that we have, and let's go ahead and put them into the no category. Okay, Alp Arslan is a no. Huo Joan, no. Let's see here. Who else do we have? Herman, no. Ragnar and CPO, no. Let's not mess with them. Chen, no. YSG, no. Okay, and it leaves us with these guys. All right, that's what we're going to look at with these guys. And so from there, we want to look at how this thing plays out a little bit when it comes to the other things he's got in his kit. Okay, now one of the things I want to consider is the fact that you don't want to get stuck in a situation to where you're having to run multiple troop types. Let's just look at him as a single troop type commander. Okay, when he's a single troop type commander, first of all, he gets 30% health. And he gets 20% march speed. Okay, well, if you look at that, that's really good for infantry. All right, the shielding's really good, obviously, and you get the bonus to attack, and you get the 40% march speed reduction of the enemy. All right, well, that's kind of got calves written all over it because you want him to fire off pretty fast. Generally, your calves hit first. Generally, your calves are going to the battle first because they're the fastest. So you can look at the calves when it comes to that, but there's also a lot of similarities with the infantry, okay? And if you run one type of skill damage, now this, or one type of troop, if you, on his third skill up at the top, if you run one troop type, you're gonna take 20% less damage and gain 10% rage gain speed. Well, with troop-specific commanders, you really don't want to run multiple troops. So let's look at this from the idea that he's going to be a tanky commander. Okay, well, who needs that? All right, let's go in here and look at this. Who really needs that? All right, Sun Tzu is pretty good. He's got some tankness to him. Wallace, Luce, BQ. I'm going to put all kind of the infantry commanders here. Okay, they could all maybe use a little bit of tankiness, but overall, Arthur is the #1 candidate to get the kind of tankiness that he needs. Okay, that's the one kind of issue with Arthur right now. Let me kind of just show everybody here is that he's got a little bit of tankiness when it comes to his skills. Okay, he does have 20% health, but he gets focused so quickly, which I think might change a little bit, that we're going to run Alp Arslan and we're going to run more archer commanders. But from there, he is like big time damage dealer. Okay, he looks to be the pair with our boy Verci. Okay, so if we bring this thing up and we look at this, Arthur is going to be really, really good with that. Now, the other thing we have to consider with this is that Verci has these weird dynamics with instant procs. And let me kind of help explain. On his second skill, he's got a 20%, or I'm sorry, on his second skill, like I said, he has, let me pull this over here. He has a 20% chance to immediately reduce the target's rage by 50. Okay, well, combo commanders are ideal for this, especially Arthur with an instant combo damage proc that he does that procs other things. Okay, in addition to this, you also have a commander like Luce. We talked about this just briefly. Luce he's like the OG combo commander, right? This is why he's going to be relevant for so many years. His expertise does an extra combo attack, okay? And you can trigger this once per second. It's 25% chance. And in addition to that, there's no cooldown. So you trigger this a lot. And when you trigger that, more of these instant procs fire off quicker. And so from there, when you look at that, you have a 20% chance here. And then down here on the fourth skill with the cornered beast, you've got another 10% chance. And you really want to fire off that mighty shield as fast as possible. Only a 5-second cooldown. So you want to fire it off as quickly as you can. So ideally, I'm thinking about this and really trying to maximize the synergies. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pull Hector down here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pull Phillip down to a maybe and Attila down to a maybe. We'll come back to them. I'm going to say Shajar. That's just a tanky canyon situation. So we'll pull her down to the theory section. Actually, I'm going to pull Phillip and Attila down to the theory section. Okay, I'm going to put Achilles here because as a primary, Achilles can maybe do some of the things that has good synergies with Verci. Okay, I'm going to put Gang here, but actually we're going to move him to no because Gang is not in a situation. He needs a big time combo damage dealer behind him to maximize his healing. So he's kind of still in that one trick pony situation with Achilles. Okay, Zuge I forgot to put down here. We're not going to mess with Zuge on the skill damage that he does. All right, you could kind of maybe say William Wallace, maybe say Sun Tzu and BQ. These are like the 4 commanders that you can kind of put him with. All right, nobody's going to really want to run William by himself with this guy, so let's downgrade him to a no. Because if you're going to run him single troop type, all right, and we can come back into that skill set, if you're going to run him single troop type, you're in a situation to where you're going to do 40% more damage for the primary commander's active skill. So you don't want to run William Wallace with that. All right, let's not try to do that because William Wallace is a single target damage dealer and you want big AoE. Well, all 3 of these guys have big AoE. All right, and these 2 guys have big AoE. These are the 2 pairings that I think we're going to see with a single troop type. These are the 2 pairings that we're going to go into with Arthur and Luce. It's kind of like a match made in heaven with Verci. Okay, Arthur needs the tankiness, all right? And you're running up the stacks of normal damage. That's only helping Arthur and Luce when it comes to their combo and smite damage that they're dealing. Okay, so that's what I think are the 2 best commanders that we're going to be able to use with this guy. However, we have to look at something, okay, when it comes to this guy. Let me go ahead and pull this thing down, all right? This guy has got a chance to do a whole bunch of normal damage, like we said, okay? And if he's doing a whole bunch of normal damage, all right, then how do you ramp up the normal damage and all damage? Well, let's look at this real quick. He's got 20% march speed, okay? And then if you look at him with 2 different troop types, he does 25% more damage. But if you look at him with 1 troop type, he takes 20% less damage and he gains rage. He gains 10% rage gain speed, which is really, really good. And so you couple that and say, okay, if we run this guy with 1 troop type, he takes 20% less damage and he gains rage faster. Okay, if we run him with 2 troop types, who could we run him with 2 troop types? Well, you could run him with Phillip. Let's look at that because this might be the fastest commander pairing in the history of the game. Phillip, of course, as we know, does the all damage buffs for your friends, all right? And he gives the 40% damage and 20% reduction to his own march. It's only a 2-second buff, but it works out pretty good. Okay, you run him over here, he's got 20% march speed. Okay, you pair him with Verci, that's 40% march speed. Then if you run 2 different troop types, okay, he's got the opposite effect of Verci. If you run him with two different troop types, you take 15% less damage here, but you gain 15% march speed. That's 55% march speed that you gain from Phillip and our boy Verci. Like, is that not crazy? 55%? Holy geez, that's like a super fast march. That might be the fastest march in the game if you throw some cavalry in there. But of course, you'd have to run it with two troop types. But that gives you an idea of how these two can kind of be intertwined. If you run it with one troop type, you're going to get the all damage bonus here with Phillip, and you're going to get the damage mitigation with the rage gain speed over with Verci. Okay, so you can kind of try that out. Now, there's no big damage coming from that march, Phillip and Verci. And it kind of sounds like, okay, that's not going to work. However, think about the all damage here. You run them with one troop type, you get 30% all damage perpetually. You also get 40% all damage for the 2 seconds that Phillip fires off. All right. In addition to that, wait a minute, are we getting this thing? If you go to the 4 skill of Verci, you can run up your normal damage to 40%. Okay, that's like 70% all damage plus 40% normal damage. Like, what is going on here? Like, is this like a modern day Attila Takeda? Like all white numbers all the time? And so you also have the instant proc or the chances to proc your active skill again with Phillip, which makes things really interesting. So there's some viability with Phillip. Now there is a little bit of instant proc damage dealing here. All right. Just like there is with Verci when it comes to Verci's expertise. But that's if you're just at a primary commander. I'd rather use him secondary. And then gain that 40%. Well, with Phillip, that doesn't do much, but we're going to try that out. Now, it's the same kind of concept with our boy Attila. That's right. I'm talking about Attila. Think about this for a second. 30% normal damage for 4 seconds from Attila's active skill. That's what makes him so good with combo commanders, right? And then you got a 30% counterattack bonus. And then over here on his 4 skill, you've got the all damage bonus. Do you realize if this all damage hit of 100% while the 30% normal damage is being put from his active skill, and in addition to that, you're dealing 20% more normal damage, okay, to troops with less than 50% units remaining? Okay, so that's 50% normal damage from Attila with a proc of 100%, all right, all damage. 50% and 100%. Let's go to this guy, okay? Because this is like Amthala's dream. He keeps talking about it in my Discord, okay? You're going to gain some attack here on his first skill. On his second skill, okay, you're getting that rage that Attila needs. He's not a rage engine, so now you're starting to give him a rage engine. And then you go to the third skill and you run troop type. You're going to make Attila more tanky. Plus, in addition to that, Attila loves health, y'all. He loves health off the second skill. Then you're going to make Attila more tanky, okay, from his third skill. And then his fourth skill, you're going to run up the normal damage. Let's say you get that normal damage up to 40%. We're talking about 90% normal damage with an instant proc of Attila's fourth skill to run up 100% all damage. What? That's crazy. All right. And then if he's a secondary commander behind Attila, you get a little bit of defense, and you don't really hit any sort of big active skill damage. So that's a little bit of a mitigating situation. But maybe there is some synergies and viabilities with Attila. You never know. So that's one of those things that we have to look forward to, okay? And those were some of the little different theories we wanted to put out. If you look at this, I also put in the theory section Shajar. You could potentially run Verci with Shajar in Canyon. Okay, if you've got leadership gear, you can put the leadership gear on Verci, run him primary. He's going to be so tanky. Okay, he's going to do a lot of normal damage, obviously, and he's going to do shields. Like that might be a march that never dies. A Verci with Shajar. Like Shajar and the healing and all that stuff. So that's one thing we got to consider for Canyon, okay? You've also got to consider that you could probably run Verci with Trajan in Canyon. You could also probably run him with Phillip. You find other ways. We're going to find it all out in Canyon, and we're going to figure all that stuff out on how to run that. But you got some different theories there, okay? But now let's look at the maybe section with Achilles, Sun Tzu, and BQ. I think this is pretty simple. Pretty simple, straightforward, and easy, okay? When it comes to Verci's setup on all those commanders, he's in a hand, he like does the same thing for all of them, right? Now, you could have a chance with Achilles to fire off more, to do some of the more instant procs for some of his skills that Verci has, but all of them are going, all three of those commanders are really going to benefit from the expertise. Now, BQ and Achilles probably more so because they're doing AoE. They're doing a lot more damage out there collectively than Sun Tzu. But all three of those commanders are going to benefit for the normal damage stacks that you do. Okay, so those are like really good. So if you had to kind of rank these at the very top, I think that's your S+ tier pairings. And when I say S+ tier, I just mean for the pairing. I don't mean that's like an S+ tier March. We got to test it and see. But the best pairings you're going to get are Arthur and Luce. And then I think some subsequent pairings that you could get, Achilles, Sun Tzu, and BQ. But the issue with Sun Tzu is that he's interesting to where he has got to have a smite damage commander behind him for him to lay out more of the true damage AoE. Okay, that's how he works. All right, so let's go into that just real quick for a second when it comes to Sun Tzu. It's based off of his active skill, but it's the military sage. So anytime you deal smite, this is why you want a smite commander behind him, especially a smite commander that's got big smite, big smite damage plus an instant proc of smite. That's why him and William Wallace work so well together. But if you don't have another smite damage commander, this is why I don't put Phillip behind him. You got to have smite damage commanders because the true damage, you're not really worried about what the actual damage factor is. You're worried about the rage you gain from that. And so when you come back in here, as we look at this, let's go ahead and pull BQ down to the no section. Okay, that's not what we want. All right, but Achilles and BQ could work. Sun Tzu goes to the no section. Achilles and BQ can work. So we put Sun Tzu here. You got some theories here when it comes to Canyon. You got weird all damage and normal damage theories here when it comes to Attila and Phillip. Like Phillip and Verci kind of sounds good in theory. A lot of all damage. Okay, a lot of procs, a lot of buffing. But it sounds like a hospital bill. It just sounds like it's not going to trade well. But if it does enough normal damage and all damage, could it like be a modern day 2026 Attila Takeda? And for anybody that doesn't know, we used to run Attila with Takeda in the field. You didn't do any red numbers. You just punish people. That's how overpowered it was. But I don't know if we can get there with Verci and Phillip. Arthur, Luce, amazing. Achilles, BQ, easy pairings with Verci, okay? Skill damage commanders, not so much. Don't run skill damage commanders with this guy. The normal damage doesn't do anything, okay? Hector, can't really run that because you're going to run him as a skill damage commander if he's a leadership commander. Gang really needs a combo commander behind him. Skill damage for Zuge, not going to work. William Wallace, single target, not amazing synergies there. Sun Tzu needs a smite damage commander behind him. So that's kind of your no section. So here's what I think you got for the pairings. And we'll look at more. We'll test out more when this guy comes in. I do like this commander a lot. I like him because he's simple, y'all. He's just a simple commander. We can understand his skills very easily. And by understanding the skills, we can apply them to different commanders and different theories very quickly. And it lets us do what we do as nerds in the game to figure out how he's going to work good. I mean, we've got all Parzon in the game, and many people are still arguing theories. Like, they still don't even know how this guy's going to work with all this nonsense that he's got. It's like you got to have a PhD to read all this stuff and figure it out. Okay? And so from there, everybody's just arguing theories. We got to go test that out. But for this guy, we got situations to where it's pretty simple and easy. He's just doing all damage. He's doing normal damage. He's buffing marches. He's mitigating rage. He's got a rage engine. Pretty easy. Pretty simple. Tanky. All damage mitigation. A little bit of buffing for your skill damage, smite damage, and combo. Normal damage, great. You on the third skill up at the top, you get more damage with two troop types. You take less damage with one troop type, and you get more rage gain speed. And then you've got an amplifier for the primary commander when he's secondary. But if you run him as the primary, you can do a little bit of extra damage every time a shield falls off. Okay, I don't think anybody's going to run this guy primary. I wouldn't do it. And so from there, that gives us the pairings potential for our boy Verci, okay? I fight for the freedom of Gaul. Anybody that doesn't know, Gaul is modern day France, right? This guy was in that area, but he's got an interesting background. I wonder technically what country he's going to be. He's got to be from France, right? Or Germany? Hell, I don't even know. Have to do some more historical facts on this commander. But if you enjoyed this video, throw a thumbs up on it. Give it a like. Appreciate everybody. Love everybody. Hopefully you got a little bit of something out of this as we went through the pairings of Verci and see what we like. And with that being said, we hope you have a great day, broskies.